Hi friends, this is Crystal, and before I play this week's episode, the four of us wanted us to add a bit of a trigger warning and just a message from us to set the mindset for this episode. We are tackling a sticky subject today. We are talking about racially problematic music in the elementary classroom. This is something that we had talked about 9 months ago that we wanted to tackle on the podcast, and we have managed to put it at the bottom of the list of things to talk about for a long time because it scares us, because we are so concerned about making sure that this is an uplifting place for our listeners and that our hearts truly shine through it all. But every time we have solicited feedback from listeners in person or online, this keeps getting brought up. And so enough people have said it that here we are and we are doing it. So the trigger warning is that we do acknowledge that there are some racial slurs that have been used in folk songs over the years. And while we have bleeped one use of the N-word, as we were saying what the original lyrics were, we just wanted to let you know that is in this episode. And if this is too sensitive a topic for you to listen to right now, we understand, and just wanted to give you the option to skip it if you need to. This is not a debate, and this is not a perfectly laid out treatise on this topic, and it is not the end of this conversation. The four of us, we want you to understand we're very good friends before we ever started this podcast together. We have a great deal of love and respect for each other as humans and as music educators, and we are working through hard things together. And so this episode is an invitation to come sit on the couch in the living room with us and have a conversation. I think too often, and Marc made this point in the episode, too often this topic is brought up in social media forums and the conversation becomes toxic because instead of listening to each other, everyone is so concerned with being understood, and we perfectly edit our responses and we have time to formulate responses. Whereas this is a heart-to-heart conversation. We've made a conscious decision to leave all of our ums and our stumbling in. And so you're going to hear some of that, and it's uncomfortable. And we've decided not to fix it with the magic of editing. There's a point in the conversation where you're probably going to correct my pronunciation to something out loud, and I've decided to leave that in too. And there are just places where our reactions to things that are said are not perfect, and our reasoning is not perfect, and we know that. And we are committed to showing our process and our growth through this podcast as authentically as possible. And that is what you're going to hear today. And so the other thing that I felt was very important, and the four of us feel is very important to bring forward, is we understand that there are no Black voices in this conversation today, and that is a problem and is one that we want to fix. So if you are listening to this episode and your perspective is not represented and you would like to add your voice to the conversation, please let us know. chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com. Again, this is not the end of the conversation. It is just barely scratching the surface. We have months of exploration and much growth ahead of us. And so we invite you to take this journey with us together. And without further ado, here is Impact versus Intent, Problematic Music in the Elementary Classroom.
Welcome to Chaotic Harmony. My name is John.
This is Crystal.
I'm Marc.
I'm Zoe.
We talk about the joys and the challenges of teaching music in the elementary school classroom. We share inspiration, we share struggles, we brainstorm solutions. We would love to have you join us.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We're back for more Chaotic Harmony.
Yeah.
And we don't have school today, so of course we are recording.
That's right.
And today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Mm-hmm. And we've been putting off talking about or jumping into the discussion of problematic music with a racist history in many cases. So let's do it.
Okay. We've talked for months about how we need to do this.
Yeah, this has been a tough topic for everybody. But first off, just so for people who are not really in the loop, could you define what is problematic music for us? Sorry.
Well, so I saw it on a Facebook group. Mm-hmm. People were just pointing out songs that have history in slavery or roots back in minstrelsy. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yep.
Yeah. And so teaching the music in, I don't know, without like the context or
teaching music, I feel like teaching music that has connotations that are aggressive towards other demographics.
So there are a lot of folk songs that have been included in United States curriculum for many, many, many years, or just beloved by the masses, that have problematic histories, such as Oh Susanna, the game Jump Jim Joe,
Baba Black Sheep.
Baba Black Sheep isn't. Oh my gosh, yeah. Zippity Doo Dah broke my heart. Shoe Fly.
Yeah, so actually, I'm sure there are people that are listening. Like, wait, what?
They're like, wait, what? Yeah, those are problems.
So Zippity Doo Dah. What is the problematic history behind that?
So I was doing a little digging on that one. My grandmother sang that song to me, but it began as a minstrel song. So blackface performers in the mid 1800s would sing it, and it was making fun of the way a slave talked. So just a caricature of a slave in the South walking along and singing, or Shoe Fly Don't Bother Me, making fun of a slave who didn't want to get up and do work.
Right.
So those, I mean, I never in a million years would have known that unless somebody guided me towards a source that told me that. And it's sad, because there are warm, fuzzy memories with my grandmother attached to that. And Shoe Fly Don't Bother Me, I have a circle game that has successfully been done in my music room and brought joy to a lot of kids over the years. And so it was like, oh, I can't do that anymore. But when you know better, you do better. Was that a Maya Angelou quote? I think a lot of people have said it. But and now that I know that, and I know that this song has a problematic past and could potentially cause harm to a family that knows its history and is like, why is that song in the music room?
Well, I think it's not just you said something there and I lost it.
That's okay.
Poop
on a podcast.
Poop on a podcast.
Take 4.
Well, I was wondering if we could just start by, because it's been maybe like 9 months since we have first talked about this topic.
That's true.
So why do you think we've been hesitant? Maybe we could share a little bit about why it's taken us this long.
Well, and not only that, but every time we meet listeners, I feel like this comes up.
It does.
People corner us. They're like, we want you to talk about this.
And it's a charged subject.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Yeah, it's messing with, I wouldn't say messing with, it's talking about the history of what we've done forever, and then also trying to move forward with being better. And so I think that's why it's taking us such a long time to discuss this and to just kind of share our thoughts and opinions on it, because we know that there might be people out there whose feathers get a little ruffled because, you know, we're relatively young in our careers and we're taking the stand like, you know what, we should be better and we should find different folk songs to sing. And it's that concept of change, and you know, people just in general don't enjoy change. And so, like you said, Crystal, you have this amazing game that works so well with this song, and it's just, that is what we do,
right?
But it shouldn't be, because of the roots of what some of these songs have.
Also, there's, I think, a sense of tradition that I have not been really a part of, but I know so many people are, that they've learned these songs from their parents learned them from their parents, and to make the choice to not extend this to the next generation it's hurtful. I get that. I understand how hurtful it is for a teacher to realize that, or anybody to realize that they can't, that this song that they loved so dear, they cannot extend to the next group. But in the same sense, if it limits, I mean, I guess we have to question, like, why do we teach songs? What is the purpose?
What's the purpose of it?
Right.
Yeah. And
if the purpose is to, there are several ideas. One is to make sure kids sing songs that can help them with their singing abilities. That's one thing for sure. But there's a lot of songs that could do that. Another one is, remember Drew Billingson telling us during our ORF Level 2 to make sure we do songs that extend past, that are not just of the current pop history, but have a sense of longevity. That's another reason, but also to just make songs of worth, you know. And if the song that we have is breaking one of those rules, then we should not use it. If it's causing harm to another set of people, we should not use it. I've kind of went all over the place with that one part, but
you did, but it's cool. Why are we teaching the songs? What are we trying to foster in our music room? I know for me, I'm trying to bring out the joy of making music as a community and bring out the creativity in my kids. And so if the content matter of my song blocks that, even for one kid in my classroom, or, you know, if I put my kids on stage and a family member reacts adversely because they know the history of a song that is sung, and that's harmful to them, I haven't done my job. So what do you think, Zoe?
I for me personally, it's that feeling of like guilt. You know, it's like you know, I've taught some of these songs that are on the lists, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, I should have known better. And just going down that route of, oh, I should have done this, when in reality, like, I actually didn't know. Like, I was, you know, I'm still learning.
Right.
So I'm really glad that we're here and we're attempting this, because I think it is courageous.
This is going to be an imperfect stab at this. So I just want to throw out there, please give us grace as we stumble through this. Know that we're trying to repair and put a bandage on harm that's been done, you know, by ourselves.
Right.
And we're trying to do better. So, yeah.
Also, jumping onto what you said earlier, I can also imagine a child that has fond feelings for a song, then learns later on that it's not. It's actually making fun of their own heritage. What will that do to their identity and that crisis later on? And
that's a big deal. Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, I agree. That has happened to me. Has it happened to you?
Not yet, thankfully, but I can, like, are we gonna, because we've talked about, like,
it's happened to me.
Well, we talked about how we want to start this conversation. Are we in?
Are we going confessional?
I think we can. I have some other questions, but if we want to dive in, we can dive in.
Yeah.
Yes, more questions.
Well, I mean, is it a question to kind of preamble the whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, that was okay.
No, before we...
let's just let the conversation flow where it's going to go. And if we get stuck, we'll let Zoe redirect. Sure. How does that feel? Does that feel good?
That feels great. I think we have a lot to say.
We do.
Anyway, so if you have something you want to say, John, you can.
Yeah, don't question it.
I don't have the exact quote. I remember about a handful of months ago, John Feierabend posted something regarding his curriculum, which I followed since the beginning of being a music teacher. I started following First Steps in music, and like I loved his stuff. And I started teaching. Well, one of the earliest songs that you teach is Johnny on the Woodpile. And it's like I'm teaching the song, and the song ends off like you got the haircut for 15 cents. Like, okay, is this like a song on inflation? It's like, clearly not. You then later on learn that it's not Johnny on the Woodpile. It's actually on the woodpile. And if you want to bleep that out, by all means, but like the fact we need to bleep that word out is telling of its history. And just showcasing, hey, they're not singing a song about kid just like playing around. This is making fun of a child who had a cheap haircut playing in wood, and teaching a mixed demographic of not just Hispanics, not just Pacific Islanders, but also African Americans. If a child was to love that song, which I've had kids have happy faces, and then going back to what I was saying earlier, to learn later on what I learned, that it is actually a song of insulting of a certain identity. That is just, oof. Yeah,
it's a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
When I first started teaching, jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton was in my curriculum. And I had no idea. I thought about it because I've lived in the South before. And so the first time I read through that, my thought was like, wait, what is this? And it's a fun song. It's got, a fun little beat. There's lots of movement involved. There's, valuable standards that are hit. And so I was a new teacher and I was moving through the curriculum, but it didn't feel right. And then I went back and I did a little bit of poking around and I was like, yeah, my instincts were right on that. And this is not okay to teach and I'll never teach it again. Yeah. So I think so often, we're already overloaded as teachers, and it can just be easy to be on autopilot. Like here's here's a game or a song that you've been taught that has been successful in the past. And so you sort of take it at face value and you find your winners, you know, like I think of Cindy Gabler, winner, winner, chicken dinner, you know, you think of your winner, winner, chicken dinner lessons. And it's like, yeah, I've taught this game to hundreds of kids, or I've had a room full of families and we've done this folk dance and this game and it's been a hit. But now I know that there's potential harm or there's a problematic history. So how can I in good faith put that in front of people again? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. That's where I'm coming from.
And I like the fact that we choose songs that have a sense of tradition. We choose songs that I mentioned earlier have lineage, because I've recently seen this on my thread that's separate from music education, but it's still related nonetheless. There was a quote that tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. And for me, someone who values tradition, I rolled my eyes hardcore. Because for me, tradition isn't just something that is just not just peer pressure, but it's something that has been tested by the community over and over again. It's reason why we don't sing, for example, Fancy by Izzy Azalea. Like it lasted for a little bit and then just kind of fizzled out.
Right.
And because of, you want to teach your kids that, by all means. But it's been tested through the community of tradition, through like what is good, what is not. And so tradition is not just peer pressure from dead people, it's the community deciding what's good. But when you have songs that we now learned that, hey, we don't just teach Anglo white people. We don't just teach a small demographic, but America is made up of a wide demographic of now all cultures.
Yes.
We need to be that people that actually respects our new community, and also then change the tradition so that it reflects our new community.
Absolutely. So we wanted to bring someone into this conversation who is all the way across the country from us. This is Aimee Curtis Pfitzner, all the way from North Carolina. Hi, Aimee.
Hey.
Oh,
hi.
Hi. So when we were doing our research, poking around in all the Facebook groups for the past discussions, especially on the AOSA Facebook forum, I kept seeing Aimee pop in. And when someone was saying, in particular, Chicken on a Fence poster, Jump Jim Joe, they would say, oh, but I love those games and they've been successful in my music room. Not only would Aimee come back with a thoughtful response about why she's decided not to use those particular songs in her classroom, she's written alternatives. So, Aimee, you're not just a music teacher with, experience in an elementary classroom. You're also a composer and you've written a lot of books. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience first? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, experience. Yes, I'm one of those dinosaurs. I started blogging let's see, I don't know how long I started blogging ago, probably over 10 years ago. So I was probably one of the first ones that really started doing blogging for music. I think, there wasn't many of us that were doing it at that time. I have been teaching for 27 years. Oh my I can't believe I said that out loud. Yeah, a long time. So it's been a while. And I publish with Beaten Path Publications, and I'm also one of the editors with them as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you have seen this discussion about problematic music affect you personally and affect the books you've written and what you've decided to do about it.
So I think one of the things that probably some people know about me, but probably many people don't, is that my daughter was adopted from China. And so when we adopted her, one of the things we really committed to was encouraging her Chinese culture and her love and appreciation for that. And so that sort of started me down a path of trying to figure out how to do that authentically and appropriately without, running into problematic things about China, because there's many problematic things about China that she's not ready to know, or that she's I'm not ready to teach her about yet. And so it was more gaining a love and appreciation of her culture. And that sort of started me down the pathway of other cultures as well. And then the more that I researched, and when I started writing books, I had to do a lot of research. I wanted to have materials, again, that were appropriate and authentic, and just being careful of other people's culture. And so learning about that has sort of taken me down lots of different pathways, not only culturally, but with American culture. and just trying to figure out, sort of decentering the whiteness of my own classroom and my own perspectives about music and music education. It's taken me down some very interesting pathways of learning a lot about our history and learning a lot about our racial inequalities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you and I had a little bit of a conversation before you came on today about just the impact that this conversation has had on you, and how you've interacted with other educators. So when this comes up in conversation, people have feelings, and I'm just wondering how you have decided to deal with that. How do you deal with your own, and how do you communicate with Grace, that we need to change?
I think one of the big things is that people need to remember that intent never trumps impact. Mm-hmm. And the kind of impact that we have upon music education within our own classrooms never trumps the intention that we have in providing music. And that, as we teach elementary age children, one of the things that I think teachers do a lot of times is they go a few different directions when they find out about problematic song material. Is that they either, number one, dig their heels in and say, I'm not changing anything, my kids love that. Mm-hmm. Or say, okay, but I'm just going to change the words. Mm-hmm. The words are the offensive issue. Or they say, okay, I need to completely shift what I'm doing. And I think, there's levels of wokeness and there's levels of awakening of people who are trying to figure out what to do with all this song material that we in our classrooms that is very that's very white centered and just being sensitive. I think in trying to find alternatives to song material out there that we have loved. Crystal, you and I talked earlier about Can't Dance Josie, Chicken on a Fence Post, how when that came out as having some problematic histories and some problematic lyrics to it, a lot of people were just like, well, I love the game, and my kids love the game. I'm just going to continue using it, and I'm just going to change the lyrics, or I'm not going to worry about those offensive lyrics because I'm not going to teach my kids that. And I don't know, for me personally, once I hear something, I can't unlearn it. I can't unhear those lyrics. They're in there. And so, I personally, for me, it doesn't work. For some music teachers, that might work to continue using those songs. But for me personally, it does not. Once I hear those, I don't want to damage a relationship with a family or with a student at my school, or God forbid, have somebody sue me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you just have to be careful and use materials that respect everyone.
Yeah.
I think what you said right there is very important about even if you change the words, like music is such a powerful tool where if you hum a tune, it doesn't matter about you saying the words, you know what the meaning's about. And even if the teacher knows the meaning, but the student doesn't, something we mentioned before you came up on here was that if a student was to learn the history, how much more damaging would that be for the child?
Yeah.
I'm with you
and
there.
I think there is a time and place, and that's a lot of people's question is, shouldn't our know this history? I had a great conversation with Randy DeLells at the AOSA conference, and he and I talked for pretty much a whole session, which was a really good conversation. He said, well, are we sort of negating all this song material that we have used in the past? And my response is, there is a time and a place for students to learn that. In my feeling is, that there is a time and a place for students to learn that. But is the time really when they're developmentally inappropriately ready to learn that? I mean, they have to be mentally and developmentally ready to understand what that song history means. And is it, hey, let's sing this fun song, Chicken on a Fence Post, and we play the game and we have fun, and then, hey guys, by the way.
Do.
Yeah.
Right.
I can see that going over like a lead balloon. I mean, my kids are pretty sophisticated. They get it, they're like, they get about stereotypes and they understand that. So I think there is a time and a place, but I think it might be more in a high school or college music classroom where there is a more higher level conversation that happens and a discussion that happens about how this song came about, what its history is, but I don't think it's in a celebratory kind of place like in the elementary music classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you talk about how music is celebration. And you want to keep the focus there, And if you bring in all the problematic history after you play the game, then it kind of feels like a trick for the kids. And kids, kids hate being tricked.
Yeah.
And so that's not going to go over well.
I want to touch on something that you said earlier. And just a moment ago, you said, even with humming a song, that the song still has meaning. And I always sort of question people when they say, I'm just going to change the words. I'm like, well, music has inherent value even without lyrics.
Yes.
So would you feel comfortable standing up at a POC conference, a People of Color conference, and humming Dixie? How would that go over?
Mm-hmm.
That's been an anthem that has been used by white supremacists. So how would that go over if you just hummed it, even without singing the lyrics of it?
Sure.
So anything that offends like that, the music has value even without lyrics. It has great value.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to talk about this with us, Aimee. We get to host Aimee next year.
So excited.
She's going to come in February to do a workshop.
I love your blog.
I know. Yes.
Yay.
Where can people find you
Thank you.
and read more about your thoughts and some of the activities you put out into the world?
So it's www.ofortunaorf.com. On Facebook, I post live videos about every week. Last week I had the flu, so I missed out. But you can go on Facebook and it's O_4_Tuno_Orf, and you can go check it out there. And everything's free that I put up on the blog. I really believe in helping other music teachers to be the better versions of themselves that they can be. So go check that out.
All right.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aimee.
I love her just way of putting things.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was so helpful to hear someone that's been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Well,
Longer
and she
than
has a
me,
personal stake in it as well. And I think that's why I wanted her voice in on the conversation, because it's been more than just her rubbing up against this problem as a music teacher. Her daughter is in the middle of it, and she's trying to navigate, how do I raise my daughter through all of this icky, sticky business, in addition to her students. So I think it's really valuable.
Yeah.
And she's definitely written some things that have made me rethink the material I use in my classroom. So I encourage you to check out her blog.
I liked something she mentioned about the whole 3 approaches that one does. Like one is just placing their heels down. The other option is to change the words. The last one is to actually consider. And I think it's, especially since I've interacted with a lot of teachers via online forums and such who are mixed on the situation. It often is the question of some things I've said is I've seen is it's important they just kind of almost suck it up. But trauma exists, and it's not our job to tell the child what is traumatic and what's not.
Right.
I think that's that's the key part, because when you're talking to other educators, you are talking to adults, but you're not singing these songs to other educators. You're singing these songs to children, and if it's traumatic, that's not on you to decide what is not traumatic. Your job as a teacher is not to tell them what their identity is. Your job is to take them where they're at and grow them from where they are, and hope that maybe they'll see your point, but not to dictate what their identity is or is not.
True.
Wow. That's good stuff, Jonathan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, guys, we've gotten through a good chunk of this conversation. Yep. I know it's not comfortable.
No.
It is. Yeah, there is that feeling of discomfort, and I don't know. I want to check in with you. How are we feeling? Are we okay right now?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I feel like there's so much work to be done.
Yeah.
And I like how Aimee talked about the different levels of wokeness. I think about that all the time.
We're woke.
I know people talk about being
important.
Woke, but
it's funny, but it's true though.
It's a waking up process.
Yeah, it is.
And every time you learn something new, you can incorporate that and just become a more conscious person in so many ways. And I've even begun to look at it through the lens like the music that I teach about, not just is this problematic from a racial standpoint, is this problematic from a class standpoint, cultural standpoint, is, are the things that I'm talking about putting in front of my kids accessible on lots of different levels.
Yeah, so, gender too.
Yes.
I think about that.
Yep. Especially, I don't, this might be controversial.
Well, we're starting a controversial topic.
I
so
know. I'm stepping in another end of it. I never divide them boys and girls. When we do folk dances, I do ones and twos, because so I'm always, concerned about that. And we do a lot of arts integration at school, and we did an arts integration episode. So if I'm talking about like how a dance would have been done culturally, like we just did a unit on Egypt. And so I taught an Egyptian folk dance. At a wedding, that folk dance, people would have been divided up, men and women. And so I acknowledged that, but I didn't make them do it.
Right. Also sucks to be the kid who's like partner up, everyone's partner boys and girls except for these two because we ran out of kids. So hey.
Yeah, there's an uneven number of boys and girls. Like how many classes do you have that are evenly split 50-50? So there's
mine, ever.
There's a lot of different ways to look at being equal and being accessible.
So my next question for us is, and we've already kind of talked about it, but like, who should be making these decisions of what songs, what dances we should be teaching?
Me.
Yeah.
Not you guys, me. Straight up.
Absolutely.
John Seligman.
Yep.
I am the one.
Putting a stamp on it.
No, but so who should be the ones that determines?
I think each individual teacher. Like it comes to a calling for us to where we need to know the material that we're teaching, and then it's a you personal decision. Like, are you comfortable teaching the song that has its roots in racism? And if you are, like, I can't change that. I can't tell you, well, you can't teach that song. But if you can live with that at the end of the day, like, okay, like that's you, and like that's what your kids are gonna do. But that's not what I'm gonna do at my school, and that's not what I'm gonna do for my kids. And it also just helps us kind of wake up to do some more digging in on these songs that we teach, and like to be proactive about knowing the material well. But we can make a list like these songs have these roots, but if ultimately a teacher wants to teach those songs, that's their prerogative. And I'm not of the belief where I have to tell you what you can and you cannot teach. Like, as a professional and as an educator, you have earned that right because you have done the schooling. As a human, I disagree, but ultimately, like, that's not my place, I feel.
I feel like I agree with you. I want to take one step further. Sure. I think the fact that we are talking here, even though it is up to the individual teacher to teach to their community, because you know what? Their community might just all be one race. And like, if they want to focus on that, that's fine. I do still recommend that they, teach them that the world is not just focused on one different culture. But I also think that it's important as us music teachers be accountable to one another as well. We can't force them. No. It's their own free will. But I think the fact that us educators, like there are educators that are listening to this podcast because they've wanted to be a part of this community and listen and like chime in and be encouraged and also encourage others. I think the same thing goes with these tough topics, that it is also our job to help encourage other educators to be better.
So I have a thought percolating.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to be imperfect in how I say this.
I forgive you.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. Those of you that know me and maybe listen to my episode where I did my intro know that I've lived in a lot of different places. And so I grew up very acutely aware, being thrust into a lot of different neighborhoods in a lot of different states, that we are a very segregated nation. My family, we were the only white family in a black church at one point. We lived in white WASP, Arizona. We've lived in, 50-50 Latino white communities. We've lived in a lot of different scenarios. We lived on the border of like the old plantation money in Alabama. So like we've lived in a lot of different places. And I see my job, I don't want to put this on anyone else. I see my job as a music teacher as helping expand world views, and helping the kids understand that the lens through which they see the world is not the only way to see it, and that their neighborhoods and their little bubble is not everyone's experience. And so I would just encourage other educators to continually do the work to understand that your bubble and your community and your school, even if you only even if you teach an all-white population or an all-one race population, that's not everyone's experience, and your children will grow up and they will not all continue in that experience. We're no longer a white nation. We're changing, and we
never were, actually.
You're right.
I understand. You're the majority. Right. It's no longer the majority, put it that way.
Yes, well, and by the time my kids are in college, they're showing that we won't even be over 50%. Yep. So yeah, we're growing these kids up and we're sending them out into a world that is changing. And so I agree with you in that we can't take anyone's right to decide what they're going to teach in the classroom. That doesn't feel right. I feel like that's kind of akin to banned books lists. But I just would hope that that you're coming from a place of wanting to expand other kids' worldviews.
I mean, that's the purpose of education.
Yeah.
The purpose of education is everyone can learn, but the purpose of placing a child in a teaching environment is because you want them to understand that the world is bigger than your household. The world is bigger than what your parents can teach you. There is much more to science, and not everyone has the accessibility to learn about beakers and learn experiments. You learn because the world is bigger than your small community. And if we are to understand that definition, then we should also extend that with the songs that we choose as well, that the world is not just our individual race. It's not just our individual culture. There are other people outside our neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that kind of gets into the importance of world music and music from other cultures and why that does belong in the classroom.
And the term world music is already problematic, but that's a topic for a different story. Because by saying world music, we're saying that non-world music, the thing we focus on, which is Western music, is more dominant than...
There you go. Yeah. Well, I just learned something, so I'll do better next time.
I mean, there's no good answer, unfortunately.
Well, I was thinking not American folk music when I said that. So what's a better term?
We don't have a better term, unfortunately, yet.
Okay, well, I need one, Jonathan, so I can use it. If world music is a problem, give me a different word.
I wish I knew. I really wish I knew. As someone who wants to enter ethnomusicology, and saying ethnomusicology places a stress on musicology, which is Western music, it's that's weird, but I don't have an answer, unfortunately. That's a systemic issue. I don't have an answer.
I like what Doug Goodkin did at his last workshop, where he just said the topic today is music from 5 continents.
Yeah,
and we did learn songs music from 5 continents.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about world music. We dove into individual songs. And
so,
what continents were not included other than Antarctica? Australia?
I think. Did we have
Bali? And wait, what?
Did we have an Australian song? I don't know.
We had what's Maori?
Maori is a Pacific Islander, so it's still close to.
Yeah.
So he lied to us. I'm kidding.
Well, then no, I don't have my notes in front of me, but we did hit music from 5 continents, but. My point was that we need to bring music into the room that immerses people in other cultures, because I think when you get into what the sound and the rhythms of a different culture and the language, that another person speaks, it builds empathy. And I see it in my room when I get my English learners who are maybe they're new to the United States even. When we sing music from the countries that they came from in their language, they come alive. Yeah. And then they have a shared experience with the other kids in their class. So they might not be talking to each other on the playground, but they can play a game and sing a song that feels familiar to them. And it enfolds them into the community. So
I think that's awesome, because I've struggled with that, being of a different background than my school. The majority population is either Latino or, well, that's our main population, but we also have Filipino and African American.
We have 80 different nationalities in San Diego County.
Yeah,
that attend our schools. Yeah.
So sometimes I feel intimidated by attempting to teach a song that's like a Mexican folk song, or even for myself, a Japanese folk song, even though I'm Japanese, because I've in the past been told you're not Japanese enough, or even though I live in a Spanish speaking household now, it's your Spanish still isn't good enough. That's my fear. But then it's also like what Aimee was talking about is it is a lot of work to learn about a new culture that you didn't grow up in. You know, you can't you can't just do a Google search and then have like a lifetime of experiences, you know.
First result, click, I am an expert. Yeah.
I know.
But
Wikipedia.
I had such a good time last night preparing for this. I just typed in because something that's popped up, like what are some things that you can do to like further your knowledge is like be more inclusive of like people of color who are composers and authors and leaders into your classroom. So I was like, okay, Mexican American composers, Asian American composers, or children's songs, and I have found some amazing things that I'm currently obsessed with.
That's great.
There was one, I think it's called Rabbits and Dumplings. They are a band. I think they're from Kentucky. And they were featured on NPR 6 years ago, and they have amazing, like very artsy music videos, like animated. They look like shortstop.
Are they for kids?
Yeah, they're for kids. They're all
cool.
Kids folk songs. So they focus on Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and Tibetan folk songs.
That's awesome.
And so there's so much out there, and I don't feel prepared to teach any of those songs tomorrow, but I'm like, okay, I'm ready to start listening.
We've got some digging to do, yeah.
Exactly. It is a long process. And what I've been trying to do to just like, you know, grant myself that grace is like, I only attended my first Fire Robin like training like a couple years ago. Like that was all brand new. That was a lot of work. And so like learning some other folk songs from different cultures, it's like, okay, there's just more to do.
Yeah.
It's fine.
There is a lot to do.
I think something that's important for us educators, 'cause I think the question you asked, like, what can we do, is like, I think the first step is be malleable. Something that my uncle who teaches photography over in Hawaii said when I first started teaching, or before I started teaching, he said that students are going to learn, but you're going to be the one that learns the most. And I feel like, especially, I'm entering my 5th year, and as I'm getting more comfortable and more confident in my teaching skills, I also recognize that I'm also becoming a little more stagnant in my desire to learn. And I think that's just a natural state of when you become more confident, you feel like you have your set of tools.
Sure.
But I think it's important for us to always remember that we should be the ones learning, if not as much more than the students that we teach. And we should be malleable to the different things, even if they don't work or if they don't align with the tools that we initially had. Because we constantly want to be better.
Yeah. I see my job as constantly working to remain more open. You know, I'm able to have these candid conversations with you guys because we all know that the basis of this discussion among the 4 of us is love. Like we got each other's backs, you know, and we're able to talk about this, but this is extremely uncomfortable. And the goal of this conversation is not to become comfortable at the end of it. And I think that I have to constantly remind myself of that. Like, you know, even just like thinking back on how I reacted when you said that thing about world music, you know, like I want to do the loving thing. I want to use loving language. And so every time I receive that input, my instinct is to be like, no, but that's not what I meant. You know, don't misunderstand me. Know that I want to give love and openness. And so that I think is where the lashing out comes from in the online discussions about all of this is like, but my intent was, you know, don't call me an unloving person because of this. But it's like Aimee said, you know, intent, you know, never trumps impact. And so just like, it's not, what did you say about the trauma? Like it was so good. It's not our job to tell the kids what's traumatic.
Yes, like trauma exists in different forms, and it's not our job to tell them what is traumatic and what's not.
Right. Yeah. And that extends to adults, and that extends to these really difficult conversations. And it's our job to remain open to each other in the middle of it.
I was reading some advice in a newsletter by Kalita Jones, and she recommended doing what Marc is doing very well. She said, listen, listen, listen. And she said to invite people into the kitchen to add to the recipe with light and love and respect. I was like, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, give people the opportunity to get there in their own way, you know?
I'm looking for this quote that I had from conference, because I mentioned this in an earlier episode. I attended
the forum.
Not the forum, actually, but it was Natasha Thurman's.
Okay.
And also I attended Tiffany Berry's, and both of them were focused on Korean folk and also Filipino folk music. But both of them had a very important stance at the very end, which reminded me of something that's very similar to what Aimee mentioned. If I could find it. My apologies, guys.
While John's looking for that, I think just as a reminder, when speaking with anybody, like, compassion needs to be at the heart of it and at the center of it. I don't know how about you guys, but my mind has never been changed from a social media debate. Like, it just never has. And so we can I
lost. I guess I'm gonna change.
Well,
it
you
now.
won. Like, I've never been a part. I guess it's never happened to me. But my mind's been changed with a conversation face to face that is civil, that is level-headed, for the most part. But there can be passion behind it. Absolutely. Like, there should be a little bit of passion behind the subject. But in any discussion that goes beyond today, and we will have them, and I hope that we have them with listeners and whatnot, because we reserve the right to learn, and we reserve the right to get better and to be better. Like, this isn't who we are for the rest of our lives today on this podcast.
Correct.
I'm hoping that we learn more things out of this from our listeners, and we see other sides. And so just trying to understand where the other side is coming from, because in any topic, if you go in with my way is the only way, it's not going to be good. So if we ever shut ourselves off to listening to the other side, like you said, Zoe, no progress is going to be made, no change is ever going to be made.
Yeah.
Did you find it, John?
I did, but I liked what you said. I kind of want to end off that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's a beautiful way to tie it up.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
I think we all need to take a page from Mark's book and do all the listening, and then come at the end and be like, boom!
It was actually something that I was going to say, but Natasha said something that was really important that was very similar to what you said. There are two kinds of listening. One is the listening to respond. The other is the listening to listen. And I feel like because we're older, we have a desire to constantly have our voice heard, and also to share our wealth of knowledge, be it in actual statement wealth or quotation wealth. But like, it's important for us, no matter what, we need to listen, because if we're constantly trying to just listen to respond, we're not trying to have a conversation. We're just trying to speak our mind and walk out. We could be better.
Yeah, we could be better.
Oh my gosh, you guys, there's so much more to talk about.
There
And
is.
I know.
my notes, there's so much more. So
Well,
we'll
this
have
episode could be 4 hours long.
This
we should
episode
do this
is
again.
only a beginning.
Yes.
Okay.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Speaking of which, guys, we really do appreciate everything that you're listening to this podcast because of whatever reason, but we appreciate it because a lot of you have responded. You sent emails, sent Facebook messages, and
Cornered us at workshops.
Yes,
we love that.
We love that, and like, it's been great, and it's been great to comment and respond to you, because what we're forming here is community. We're not just here to speak our mind. We're here to create a community, to share stuff. So, and also the thing is, our community is growing, and the only way it's going to grow even more is if you help the visibility. So if you could go to iTunes or whatever podcast listening app you listen to and send us a review, be it 5 stars, whatever you want, but be honest, so that we can improve, and also just increase the visibility so more people can be part of our podcast. Also, if you want to, actually, please do, not even want to, please do subscribe and also like. That helps as well with the visibility, but even more so, as mentioned, this is a big conversation, and we do want to hear what you have to say. So please email us at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter as well at @CHClassroom.
That's right. All right, we're coming back with Spiccato after the break. I want to take a quick break and thank my husband Bryan, who's been working behind the scenes producing these episodes every week on all of the platforms and on time. But you need to know that he is first a financial planner for Mission Trails Financial. Mission Trails Financial is a partner that seeks to guide clients in the journey to financial success. They believe that people need a financial advisor that aims to provide strategies for success. Mission Trails Financial helps people navigate investments, tax planning, and insurance. Imagine working with an advisor who isn't tied to specific brands. Mission Trails Financial has a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interests of their clients by providing independent, objective advice. Their mission is to help clients accomplish their financial goals. As Joe Vitale once said, a goal should scare you a little and excite you a lot. Do yourself a favor and set up a time to chat with Mission Trails Financial. Visit www.missiontrailsfinancial.com or call 619-419-0238 to schedule a call. If you're in the area, they'd love to have you come by the office. You'll be glad you did. We believe that leaning on professionals is how we get ahead. Check out the program notes for more information.
Wait, what was
Marc has brought a Spiccato.
I sure have.
what is this?
So,
what is it, Marc?
on my way here,
You found a spider.
I did. It was in my room.
It ain't itsy bitsy.
So
the size of your face.
I stopped by my wife's work this morning because she had forgotten her computer charger, and I dropped it off on my way in.
Mm-hmm.
And on my way in, I was like, "Oh, I need a Spiccato item." And so her and a couple of her coworkers were there. I'm like, "Ladies, do you have any items that I could, like, random items?" And so they're like, well, there's a giant spider on the table. So I'm like, yeah, there is a giant spider on their table. And they're like, why do you need it? I was like, so we can talk about what we're going to do in our music room with it. And they're like, what? And Brianna's like, you can do Itsy Bitsy Spider. So that's been taken. No one can use Itsy Bitsy.
It's also not
spider.
itsy or bitsy.
That's fair.
Yeah, it ain't.
But it is a spider.
It's a big spider.
This is creepy.
It's
I
kind
don't want
of
to touch
fuzzy.
that.
It's way too realistic.
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a spider.
I think what I would do with it is I would hide it in my art teacher's room and scare her. Like, have it poking up out of the watercolors.
Ooh. Yeah, very scary.
See, like, my first thought was have you seen the YouTube video of the dancer doing the spider dance?
No.
She's a ballerina and she folds herself in half and does this incredible
half.
she
What?
like does this weird she
horizontally,
back
vertically?
bends.
Oh, okay,
She's
back
standing
bend.
up. She does
I
some
thought,
sort
like,
of back bend.
By the vertical, she like folds
Yeah,
herself.
she splits herself in half like that. No, she back bends, but it's crazy. And then she grabs her ankles and then she does this weird dance with her arms and her legs where she moves just like a spider. So I was kind of thinking, like, what if you got kids together and you put two kids together and they had to dance like a spider
Okay.
or get across the room like a
I like
spider?
that.
That's cool.
Actually, I want to build off that. I think that we could also have kids partner up and do like a mirroring activity, but not like,
fun.
but not like
Spider on a mirror.
well, okay, kind of, yeah. Actually, so you coordinate what it's going to be like, and then both of you like have to kind of gauge what the other person's doing back to back, and then do a movement
sorry.
activity where you're
Kicking people.
mirroring.
I know he's
each other.
kicking us under the table.
That's me.
Oh.
Sorry, John.
Something's going on. I'm
We
not
got
sure.
distracted.
Anywho,
We're into movement now. That's what's happening.
It's a 9-person job. One person's the body, and every other person's one leg.
Nice.
I was thinking
There's
you
no way that
find
could
a Tarantella song and you could do like a listening or a steady beat with a Tarantella.
okay.
Isn't there a we sing? Spin, spider, spin, spin a spider web.
I don't know. That
I think
sounds
there is.
spooky.
It
I
is.
like it,
It's
though.
great. On Halloween night, it's such a scary sight. Something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I also think that you could use it for like, so we just had our 3rd graders do adaptations, and so you could talk about spiders' adaptations and use some of that vocabulary that they're learning in the general classroom and have the spider, and so it is a hands-on thing, and then we move to it to try to feel and try to experience what those adaptations might be.
Ooh. I
I
like
think
that.
another thing is you can turn a kid into a spider,
Totally.
and then shoo them away.
Akio spider.
Okay.
What
How are you gonna do that? I
about?
know.
That's against the rules.
I remember level 3
Teachers
when
aren't
we
supposed to do
maybe it
that.
was level 2
It
when
was
we did
2.
the spider and the fly.
Yeah, and then we caught Zoe.
Yeah,
We
that's right.
did.
I was a fly.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, you were the cutest little
Because
fly.
you had no clue what's going on. You were in the other group.
And then just
Guys,
a bunch of
we
people
should
bull rush Zoe.
I
Yeah.
remember
We
that.
thought about carrying
Jonathan
you away.
was like head spider, and he was so creepy.
He was
like
very
really
creepy.
into it. The facial expressions were terrifying. Okay,
my
thanks
pastime.
for bringing that. Round of the week. Okay, so Zoe brought us our round of the week.
Okay.
Yeah, Zoe brought us our round of the week, and it's Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, which might come across as an interesting choice for the subject matter, but Zoe has good reasons for bringing it to the table today. Can you share those?
Yes, I can. So, there's just been a lot of sad news and people hurting around, like in my circle, and also like in
And
our
politically.
just a lot of violence. So, I when I'm feeling down, I often listen to this Bobby McFerrin album, Spirit You All. If you haven't heard it, it's amazing. So this one, he does the song with Esperanza Spalding.
It's beautiful.
It is so beautiful, and it just, yeah, you know, you can just come home listening to the song. So
Shall we try?
It's fine.
Go.
It's good.
Swing
low, sweet chariot,
coming for to carry me home.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
I looked over Jordan, what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
Coming for to carry me home.
Sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
Coming for to carry me home.
I like it. So that was Bobby McFerrin, one beat round style. I
Yeah.
like that.
Cool.
Thanks, Zoe.
Yay, thank you.
Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for sitting in the hard things with us
Yeah.
and being in the uncomfortable. And we're looking forward to your feedback on this
Yes.
topic.
Definitely.
So-
Zoe, question.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at Ms. Kumagai.
Find me at Finny Vappa.
You can find me at Mr. Keehmer.
And you can find me at Mr. Seligman, MrSeligman, on either Twitter or Instagram. Same thing goes with Chaotic Harmony Classroom. As I mentioned before, you can find us on Twitter at CH Classroom, also Instagram, also Facebook. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
The Chaotic Harmony podcast is a joint project between Crystal Pridmore, Jonathan Seligman, Zoe Kumagai, and Marc Keehmer. You can find us online at chaoticharmonyclassroom.com. You can email us at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com and let us know what you think. Give us feedback about what you would like to hear in future episodes. We're on all the socials. Find us on facebook.com/chaoticharmonyclassroom. You can find us on Twitter at CHClassroom, Instagram at Chaotic Harmony Classroom, and you can even find our episodes on YouTube. Chaotic Harmony is the name of our channel. Special thanks to Bryan Pridmore for his help with production and equipment. www.pridmoria.com.
Can I tell you my least favorite Mark?
No.
Great. John, take off your headphones. I'm going to tell the girls. My least favorite
I
Mark
still hear you.
is 4 a.m. Mark. So 4 a.m. Mark is supposed to get up for the gym.
Yeah.
My class is at 5. But 4 a.m. Mark always wants to stay in bed. So I've gotten out of bed. I've gone to the gym, and I feel great after I go.
Yeah.
But 4 a.m. Mark always wants to go back to bed. He's the worst. calories or whatever.
So
up
you
to
do have a
36
why.
hours. Yeah, I guess.
You have a why.
I want to get my orange zone.
The girl that was like my trainer was just like, do what I say and shut up. And I was like, oh jeez.
So this
Are
is
we
staying in,
recording?
so,
Excuse
this is in
me?
the outtakes, right? Can you say her name?
You guys sound all balanced. Crystal, can you move your windscreen closer to your mic?
So it's
Windscreen closer
just
to the mic and I'm on it. Windscreen
6
close to the mic, get closer.
opening
Is that better?
Yeah.
No? I feel like I can't make it stick.
rather
Okay,
than
we'll spend a few minutes and get it.
Spend a few minutes. I know, Brian's simple solutions. Are your
Something
headphones
for the
made out
third
of
time.
twine?
I don't know what they're made out of.
I
I
like
think out
them.
of like Dr. Clemens's jacket.
Maybe. Yeah, they were at CVS, $12. Well,
Nice.
14 after tax. 14 flat.
They're very cool.
14 flat after
14.
tax.
Yeah, I was impressed.
With 0 cents.
0 cents.
Wow.
14.00. It was
Talk about the stupid things you get excited about as an adult. But like my groceries were $58 the other day, and I was
There you
like,
go.
yes.
I am so
That's good.
tired of tax
Yeah.
not being included. It's so dumb. It's a mentality of trying to get.
Oh.
It's like,
Should I
hate
move
it.
my
I hate
body in a
it.
different
Yeah.
way, Brian?
No, you're good. We're
You
ready
should
to
rotate
go.
your body
No, you
5
should try
degrees
to, I
south.
think you should try to face the camera, though.
I'd
Okay.
like you to make the
If you-
shape of a,
Yeah, okay, good.
I don't know. Make the
plum.
shape
Of a wallaby.
be a tree, Mark.
I think we would miss an opportunity. Do we know the history of this song? Because I don't.
Oh.
It's a spiritual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Just because
It's valid.
Yeah, it's a
It would be the
spiritual, and it was
worst if we
used
sang
on.
something that was
Well,
like,
it was
"Ooh."
used like Underground Railroad code.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm not as linear as with my thoughts as I want it to be.
that's
It's
okay.
frustrating.
I don't think people listen to our podcast expecting linear.
I know, but I know that, but also this is a big beefy topic. I would
It is
want
a
it to be
big, beefy
presented
topic.
in a relatively cohesive fashion.
I hear that. This is not going to be the last time we talk about this.
Sure.